From architecture to painting and sculpture, literature to live music and theater, Radio 111 presents Bonnie G. and Brian Mendoza with The Desert Scene, your connection to culture and entertainment in the desert cities. Here's Bonnie and Brian.
And welcome to The Desert Scene. Our guest today is Tim Bruneau, who is the artistic director of the California Desert Chorale, and they've got a big holiday show coming up. Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Bonnie?
Good. So tell us about this concert that's coming up.
Well, it's a particularly exciting one for me because it's emerging from pandemic.
Right.
So, and we've been separate for so long. We've been doing everything virtually for a year and a half. We kept the chorale going, but we did only virtual performances with people submitting individual contributions and all that. But since the second week of September, we've been back together rehearsing live, masked live.
Yeah.
And everyone's just chomping at the bit because it's not only been so long since we've been together singing, but we haven't performed for an audience live in, more than a year and a half.
Right.
And so we're very excited about it, and we have an event on, we're doing kind of opening the gates slowly, so to speak, coming out of the pandemic, but we are doing just a single holiday concert. We typically would do 3 performances, but we're doing only one on December 12th. Okay. At Hope Lutheran Church in what's called the Hope Center, and it's going to be very similar to what we've done in the past, but a bit scaled down, partly because of our 60-plus members, we currently have only about 32 performing because people are concerned about the virus and all that, but we've got a really nice sounding group, and we'll have about a 72-minute concert without intermission, and small orchestra of about 10 players, and familiar carols, and some kind of novelty pieces, some sort of silly comic Christmas pieces, and hopefully something for everyone. But that's, again, on the 12th at Hope Lutheran Church at 3 o'clock, and just showing up is fine. We have flexible seating, so people come in, and we're asking a minimum $20 donation, but nobody will be turned away. Everyone's welcome, so if they can't afford, that's fine. Then come anyway and enjoy the music. So that's our big plan.
How have you had to do much adaptation because you have a smaller group than you normally do? Did you have to change anything?
Well, I think what's different maybe is simply that in a smaller group, what it does is, and I mean this in a positive way, it forces even greater independence for each singer. Mm-hmm. They simply have to be more reliable because they can't be lost in a section of 20 sopranos. There's only 9 sopranos, so and so they're more exposed. But it actually tends to make people solid, but more solid and better prepared, I think, because they know they can't be lost in the mix in quite the same way.
Right.
But in terms of rehearsing a group like that, it's not dramatically different. It's simply that everyone has to be coached and taught to listen a little bit differently because the overall amplitude of the sound is not quite as huge. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, as I said, I'm really thrilled because we're making beautiful sounds, and it's really unified. And I go back to the fact that Handel's famous Messiah was written for 12 singers. It wasn't written for.
I see. I didn't know that. Wow, that's interesting.
And very often it's the case with Baroque era music because the whole vocal concept of singing in Baroque period was very much instrumental and very much about being precise and being rhythmically accurate, and the music's very complex in that way. But Handel was smart enough to go, you know what, this is going to sound messy if I do it with 100 singers, so I'll just do it with 12.
Yeah.
And but anyway, as I said, I'm really pleased with the sounds we're making. It's despite the fact that we're a little smaller, it's very balanced between the sections, and the program itself is designed to be appealing and nothing too heavy, and just kind of bringing the joy of the season in and getting people in touch with not only the fa la la and the jingle bells, but the spirit of it, spiritually, so to speak. We need to be there for one another in these challenging times, and it is about peace and brotherhood and kindness. Mm-hmm. So there's that little thread of theme thread running through it as well. But but also, as I said, lots of fun, lots of silliness.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to ask you about one of the songs that you've chosen called The Welcome Table. I know that in the press release it said the reasons why, you know, you chose that specific song, but would you mind telling our audience why that song is included in your program, and why is it so special for you, and why and its significance for you? Because I think it's a great song. If I remember that song very clearly.
Well, it's a song to offer my own personal history with it. It's a song that I heard as I guess as an adolescent. I probably was in middle school or early high school, and it's actually a spiritual. There is no composer, so to speak. It was passed down like a folk song. Originally with African roots, but and its message is simply, we're going to sit at the welcome table one of these days. That if we keep working with one another and we accept differences and we work together to celebrate those differences rather than let them divide us, then we'll be there together, and it will be the most glorious feast. Is sort of what the message of the piece is, and it's a simple little tune that I. As I said, I've known forever, but I arranged it for, a 5-part choir, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass choir, and just tried to create this rousing anthem of, I think of the rock song "Don't Stop Believing." It's like, folks, we have to keep on this, and we have to keep believing that we can come together better than we have, and I don't think anyone would deny that our country has been increasingly divided in recent years, and social-politically speaking. And I just want to keep the message out there that we can work together, and differences don't have to divide. So I guess that's the gist of my motivation for writing it.
That's fabulous.
I think that's wonderful when you take a song that meant something a long time ago and you that's how timeless music really is that you take a song that was originally spiritual from back in the day to making it the song about reuniting people and bringing people together. And I think that's really wonderful, to be honest with you. And that's just the timeless quality of music.
Well, and what you learn after, and I've, without revealing my age, I've been doing this a while. One of the things that you learn is that most great music in general, but also just like a great song, that what it gets at, what its messages are, and what its themes are universal, and they are, as you said, Rand, they're kind of timeless. That because they address the human condition and what we're always trying to do to be better people, and I think a great song written in fact, some of my students, my private voice students, I'll suggest, why don't you sing this song? And they'll say, well, when was that written? I'm like, well, I think in 1932. Mm-hmm. Why do I want to sing it? I said, because there's a message in it that you can apply to right now.
Absolutely.
and enrich your life right now. And that's what a great piece of music will do. It does not fade away. We think about, and I'll be the first to admit I'm sort of a bit of a musical snob when it comes to certain kinds of pop music. I think some of it is so derivative, and so it doesn't have that timeless quality. The lyrics don't have that timeless quality, and I think of a comment that the amazing Elton John made once about pop music, and that he said, well, the best thing about pop music is that it's so disposable.
I never heard that quote. I love that.
Isn't that good? But there are certain kinds of pop music that are. It's like, okay, I've heard this. I know what it says or doesn't say, and this is not going to continue to speak to me for 3 decades, right?
Right.
But you jump back, and I'm going to sound like an old fogey here, but you jump back to the songs of George Gershwin and Cole Porter,
absolutely,
and Jerome Kern, and you go, wow, every bit of emotion expressed in this song is just as pertinent right now.
Timeless.
Yeah.
Tim, have you written a lot of things? Have you composed a lot of music over the years?
I have, yeah, quite a bit. A lot of, as you would imagine, because I've always been around choirs, a lot of choral arrangements, but I've also written what I guess categorically would be art songs, where I've taken, great American poetry and set it to music in a more of a classical vein. In fact, I just finished one a short time ago that is based on a Carl Sandburg poem called "The Harvest Moon," and I wrote it for soprano, piano, cello, and flute. And I've had a number of things published over the years, mostly choral things. But and I've written a few pop songs, mostly probably more than a decade ago when I was living in Pasadena and working in L.A. I wrote quite a few popular sort of songs and had a few of them optioned. Bette Midler bought an option on one for $20,000 and held on to it and didn't record it, but still it was. So
it's still out there. Nobody's ever recorded it. Wow.
No, other than my demos.
Yeah.
But, and I think Cher bought an option once on something that I wrote. This was some years ago, but which is great. But that's a different world for me. I'm really more in the
choral kind of
classical world, choral world. Yeah.
I just wanted to get sort of the somewhat time capsulated version. Are you from LA originally? I don't remember.
Oh no. I was born in Michigan, in a tiny town in Michigan called Ironwood, and the reason I was born in Michigan is because my hometown across the border in Wisconsin did not have a hospital. So I was born in Michigan, but lived in Wisconsin, grew up in Wisconsin, was there till I was 18, I guess. No, more than that. I was there till I was 22 because I went to college in Wisconsin as well, and then moved to Chicago and taught and performed in Chicago for about maybe 7 years,
okay.
And then moved to Los Angeles in 1987, and then to the desert in 2005.
And what made you come to the desert?
Well, my husband was ready to retire. And having a few little health issues, but nothing major, but and just was ready to make a change. And we had a condo out here in Palm Springs that we lived in Pasadena for 20 years, but we had a condo in Palm Springs that we would come to on weekends. And we just, since he was ready to retire, we just kind of made this let's take a leap thing where I would go along and we would just see what living in the desert full time was like. And my intention and my financial planning, so to speak, was that I would make that move, and I probably wouldn't do much of anything for about a year or so. I was just going to get the feel of the desert and see what the musical scene was and so on. And sort of a funny thing happened in that I was attending a church service in Palm Springs at a place called the Church of St. Paul in the Desert, an Episcopal church. And I happened to be there, and I was just singing hymns along with the congregation, and when the service was over, this man turned around quickly, and he said to me, "Who are you, and where have you been?" and I said, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I just don't hear singing like that. What's your story?"
Yeah.
And I sort of gave him a little bit of my rundown, and this is who I am and where I've been. And he said, "Well, you don't happen to play the piano, do you?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he said, "Have you ever entertained in a restaurant?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Would you like to? I'm opening a new restaurant in Palm Springs." And I said, I don't know. I don't think so. Well, he said, "I'll pay you this much." And he named an amount. And I said, I don't really think so. I want to take a year to. And then he named another amount. And I said, "Well, okay."
Yeah.
And I became a piano bar guy for the first time in my long life, and I had a blast doing it for about between, I guess, 4.5 years or so, maybe going on 5, and then I just sort of it's like, okay, I've done that, and I want to go back to my academic roots and concentrate more on and teaching at the College of the Desert and teaching privately.
Yeah.
But it was really fun, and I'm always the first one up at the piano if there's a party, and somebody's like, "Let's sing."
What restaurant was that?
It was called the Uptown Grill.
Okay. I vaguely remember that. Brian had one more question.
Oh, I wanted to ask you before the interview's over. I know that you have scholarships and internship opportunities at the California Desert Chorale. I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit on that and anything that's coming up for the California Desert Chorale, just anything in general.
Yeah, absolutely. That part of our outreach was a little, kicked in the behind by the pandemic as well. But we do have an annual scholarship program. I'll talk first about the scholarship and then the internships. The scholarship program, wherein we have funds, donated funds, that are set aside, and we hold a scholarship competition where students come in and they're required to sing one classical piece and one musical theater piece, or it could be a standard. But the idea is one classical and one not. And unlike a lot of competitions, one thing I think sets us apart is that our competition day actually includes instruction. In that I hold what they call in the business a master class, and all of the competitors, it's usually 10 or so, 10 or 12, but they not only do they perform for an audition for the scholarship, but I coach them all for about 20 minutes each, and in front of the audience, and the judges observe that as well, and they make the awards based on how well the students respond to their direction and to their coaching. And at the end of that day, we give away a California Desert Chorale scholarship, and we give a second scholarship that is named in honor of a former member of ours, Gordon Wolf. His family established a memorial scholarship in his name, so we give that award away as well at each event. And lastly, we give away an audience favorite prize. And so that's the scholarship event. And regarding the internships, this has been especially challenging, but we're still at it. But when I was teaching on campus at College of the Desert, teaching voice classes there and directing choirs there, I would always look for who are the outstanding young students who might not only benefit from a California Desert Chorale membership, but might enhance the choir as well because of their skill and talent and discipline. And in any case, so I would select usually 4 to 5 students a year for that, and they would be invited into the chorale. And because they are interns, they don't have the typical expenses of every other member, meaning their membership dues are covered by the organization. Their attire, their tuxedos, and their performing gowns are covered by the organization, and they get the experience at a very young age of singing with a pretty high-power choir. And a lot of them, it's fascinating because a lot of them, it causes them to want to study further, meaning beyond COD. In fact, I've had probably 7 or 8 interns over the years eight definitely, but that they have the experience of the chorale, and they, of course, have been in the high school choir and so on, but then they have the experience of the chorale on a higher level, and they actually decided they wanted to pursue being choral directors.
Excellent.
And that's a great thing. We need motivated, enthusiastic people with fresh ideas, and I'm just thrilled that the scholarship program the internship program rather has fostered that, and we put a few conductors out there.
Well, Tim Bruneau, thank you so much. By the way, if you want more information about the chorale, you can go to www.californiadesertchorale.org, and the holiday event's coming up Sunday, December 12th at 3 p.m., Hope Lutheran Church. Tim Bruneau, thank you so very much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
You make it so fun. Thank you to both of you.
Oh, you're most welcome. All right, see you next time on The Desert Scene.
I look forward to it.